Hello and welcome to The Public Good. This is Andrea O'Sullivan from the Partnership for the Public Good, or PPG, which unites over 275 community organizations working to build a better Buffalo. We're delighted to be joining you every Tuesday at 1 p.m. on Facebook Live and every Tuesday at 7 p.m. on Power 96.5 FM and Mix 1080 AM. Today we're joined by Ahmad, the founder of the Buffalo Information Sharing Collective, to talk about the offerings of his new organization. Don't forget to follow PPG on Facebook and Twitter, and of course you can always get great information on our website, ppgbuffalo.org. The Public Good is sponsored in part by Univera Healthcare, real people who really care. You can watch videos from The Public Good, including our series of 3 questions with each guest on our show, on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. Before we get started, though, I have a few quick announcements of events coming up this week. First, do you have concerns about policing in Buffalo? The new Police Advisory Board wants to hear your thoughts and ideas to make policing better for our city. Their final forum of a series of 3 is this Thursday, September 6th, from 7 to 8:30 p.m. at the Gloria J. Parks Community Center, which is at 3242 Main Street. So that's a forum on policing, Thursday, September 6th, from 7 p.m. at the Gloria J. Parks Community Center, 3242 Main Street. Then coming up this weekend on Saturday, there are 2 great community events. The first is Saturday, September 8th, all day, starting at 9 a.m., going all the way to 8 p.m. at 617 Main Street, and it's Squeaky Wheel Film and Media Arts Center hosting their event called An Excellent Adventure. This is going to be a family-friendly social media scavenger hunt and offers a chance to be part of a fun and media-infused social activity. Funds raised at this event are going to support the free and low-cost media equipment access, education programs, and art exhibits that Squeaky Wheel offers to Western New Yorkers every day. For more information, you can go to their website, squeaky.org. On Saturday, September 8th, again this Saturday at Canalside, PPG and many of our partners of the Crossroads Collective are hosting a big event called Rise for Climate, Jobs, and Justice. And this is exciting because this is happening in many cities and towns, actually all around the world. September 8th is this Rise Up, Rise for Climate Day. So there'll be thousands of people out around the world and here in Buffalo at Canalside, coming together to build people power around climate, jobs, and justice. So join our partners as they demand a fossil-free world that works for all of us. That's starting at 12:30 p.m. this Saturday at Canalside. So Ahmed, we've got all the announcements done. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So we have you here today to hear about your relatively new collective, but you've had a lot of activity already with the Buffalo Information Sharing Collective. And I know a premise to this organization is that knowledge is power and information is power, which is also part of why PPG was founded over a decade ago. So I'd love to hear from you just what led you to start Buffalo Information Sharing Collective and what's the purpose?
So in 2015, I went to the City of Buffalo auction and I bought 2 vacant lots from the auction. And then in 2016, I went again to the City of Buffalo auction. I bought 4 lots. During that time, a lot of people were interested in learning how to buy property, how the auction works. And while it was relatively simple for me, it was just something I went to, I picked up on, I knew what to look for, I did my research. A lot of people were confused about the process. So after a while, people just keep repeatedly asking me questions about it. I was like, you know what, somebody should do a workshop around this information. And I also found that people were asking me lots of information on topics related to finance. And I didn't have all those questions, but they assumed I did. So I, back in 2015, I had this idea in my head. And at the time, I was working for Push Buffalo. And I had pitched the idea of doing these auction workshops. Unfortunately, at the time, they couldn't take it on. So I ended up leaving Push Buffalo, and I decided to launch these workshops on my own, and they've been a hit ever since the beginning.
Okay, very good. And so when did you first start the workshops?
My first workshop was October of last year. It was a couple weeks right before the auction. The auction's every October. So I did this workshop. I created the Facebook event. I invited people. I recruited a few presenters besides me. And that first workshop saw over 100 people attend it, which was a major turnout. So then we took a break from doing the workshops because the auction was over. But then we started back up with the auction workshops in April of this year. And that workshop again saw over 100 people. And then we've been doing them once a month, and we're going to be doing it until the auction. Our last workshop will be October 4th. This year the auction is going to be the 15th through the 17th.
Okay. So yes, we'll definitely get details from you on the upcoming workshops before we're done today. So you've had this series of workshops called Buying Property from the City Auction that you're talking about. I know you've offered them several times in English, but also in Arabic, in Spanish, in Somali. And you've talked a bit before about how you see buying property really as an opportunity for people to, yes, invest in property, but also to invest in themselves, to invest in their neighborhood, and hopefully to start building some long-term wealth. So maybe you can tell us a bit about how you see this really playing a longer-term role in the community.
So if you look at the data says one of the best ways to build wealth in this country is one of them is real estate, and another way is owning your own business. So those are two of the biggest ways. So for me, I know a lot of people in the city of Buffalo are renters, and the problem, there's nothing wrong with renting, but you're not building up your own wealth. So you pay your money monthly, and then at the end of the day, you don't own the property. So for me, real estate is a way to have something that's your own, you build it up, and then when you die, you could pass it on to your family, so your kids have a head start. So that's one of the ways to build wealth.
So you've had hundreds of people come to these buying property from the city auction workshops. Can you give us an idea of who the typical person coming to learn more about this is, or some examples of the different types of people coming to learn about this?
So when I first started these workshops, I thought it would be like 90% male, and I thought it'd be like 10% women. But then I was just looking around at the audience one day, and I noticed it was 2/3 women every workshop. So my target audience is working class people, and I thought it would be male driven, but most of my audience is African American women in the 25 to 34 demographic, and so women are my biggest audience, but to be specific, it's 25 to 34-year-old African American women.
Okay, that's very interesting. And do most of them that you've chatted to, do they rent their places now? Do any of them already own property that you know of?
So what's interesting about, even though women are the biggest demographic, because the way that we socialize women in this country, they are, I don't know if shy is a word to put it, but they don't approach me. Mostly the people who approach me and talk to me one-on-one are the men from the audience. So I'm trying to find a way to break the barrier and let women know that if you have questions about investing or in real estate or anything, you should get out there and you should push yourself, and because they are the ones who are showing interest, and a lot of the women are in a position to buy property.
Yeah, and it's interesting, we do see a lot of female-headed households in low-income communities generally, and we're working on evictions actually at PPG, and in Buffalo, like across the country, it is these women of color and young women of color who are evicted the most. So it's really interesting to hear that you're seeing this demographic come in and really engaging on this. But yeah, that's a good point too, that maybe we need more time, more investment in building up female entrepreneurship as well.
The thing is that they're ready. I don't know if there needs to be more programs for them, or there needs to be more outreach to women of color specifically. I'm not sure how to bridge that barrier, but they are definitely interested and they're definitely ready. They're just, somebody needs to capitalize on all that energy and all that potential.
And one thing many of our partners and community members that we work with on housing, would start to feel that, as you know too, there's been this investment rush into Buffalo. And when you go to the city auction the last few years, how many folks do we see that are from Buffalo and of Buffalo communities? Or how many do we see that are from Brooklyn, Los Angeles, Canada, and certainly many of our friends and members are paying their rent every month to landlords who are living in those places. So I wonder, did that kind of growing divide between locally owned and rented properties and properties managed from very far away, did that come into your work on this project?
These auction buying workshops, they're given with the intention that people from Western New York or specifically Buffalo will buy up the land and buy up the homes. Of course, these workshops are free and open to anybody, so I'm able to spot a few people who are looking to flip, who come to the workshops.
Okay.
My intention is not to drive any more flipping. There's a difference between flipping and investing. So I want the common everyday person to know how to invest in themselves, but not how to flip.
Okay.
So that comes up in every workshop. I keep that in mind, and we have somewhat of a discussion about it.
Yeah, I know you've told a Buffalo News story before that I want to see less slumlords and more people invested in their properties here in Buffalo.
Yep.
And also that you've added recently to the workshops a section on just what you're talking about, of what does it mean to be a responsible investor rather than someone come in and flipping. So I wonder, could you share with us a bit from that section of what that looks like?
So for me, flipping is you come in the neighborhood, you buy property, and you're just looking to make profit, and you don't care what effects it has on the neighborhood. So you're gonna sell the house or sell the property right away. And for me, investing looks like you come in the neighborhood, you see what's going on in the neighborhood, you fix up your property, you rent it out, you live in it, and you're thinking of more long term. And I'm not saying that I'm against people who sell their property, because I think that's very important. You should be able to sell your property. It's just a way that you do it. Are you selling it to people who might build these big apartment lofts there? Do the people you're selling it to care about the neighborhood? So by all means, sell your property. It's just keep in mind what's going to happen in the community afterwards. So.
Very good. And I know you've also started to build in as well other kind of community solutions like land trusts and some other ideas that, again, keep wealth and keep control in neighborhoods and with long-term residents. You've got a couple other topics of workshops that you've run, one called Debt-Free and Saving. What's that workshop about?
So in order to be in a position to start investing, you need to have some money of your own. So I'm working with people to talk to them about like what's their current status, how they can start saving money, how they can become debt-free, and how they can start living a better life. The beauty of this collective is that I'm not an expert on all these topics. So with that workshop, I recruit presenters for it, and I'm just there to facilitate it. But I don't actually lead that workshop.
Okay. And then I think you have another coming up on a third topic called Tiny Home Simple Living.
Yes.
So yeah, tell us, where did that idea come from, and what do you expect that will teach?
Again, that's a workshop that I recruited presenters on. So the workshop presenters, they own their own tiny home, and they went through the whole process with financing it, building it, with zoning issues, and so I know with a lot of people they want to start living a better life, and for some people that's living more simple and living in a tiny home. And one of the solutions I see to the problem with all the land in Buffalo is tiny homes, as long as it's done in the right way. So I've been interested in starting a tiny home community myself. I don't know at one point in my life I'm going to start that up, but that's something I'm interested in, and I know a lot of people have interest in that. So I set up this workshop. It's going to be the first time I'm doing it.
Okay.
So I'm hoping for the best.
Yeah, so maybe one more option in affordable housing solutions for Buffalo, and in people starting to build their own kind of capital would be tiny homes. So we'll see.
Yeah.
That's interesting to hear how that goes. Do you have any other ideas or other topics that are getting requested for workshops coming up?
We have a workshop. I haven't put a date on it yet, but on fixing your credit. A lot of people want to know how to are in bad financial situations or have been in bad financial situations, so their credit's taking a hit and they don't necessarily know how to fix it. So I recruited a presenter for that. It's actually John Washington from Push. He's a former debt collector, so he knows all the ins and outs of credit. So him and I have to sit down and put that on the calendar. And then another upcoming workshop is investing in stocks, bonds, and cryptocurrency. So for a lot of people, they want to know how to buy stock or buy bonds, and like how do they grow wealth from that.
Okay. And if somebody has either an idea for a workshop or something that they could teach, how can they get in touch with you?
They could reach out to me. If they have Facebook, they could go on Facebook and look up Buffalo Information Sharing Collective, and they can just message the group, or they could hit send email. The emails come directly to me, or they could email me directly. My email address is aanieves23@gmail.com. So I'm pretty accessible. So email me, reach out to the group. You can suggest a workshop. The only limitation is something focused around finance. Yeah.
Great. Focusing on financial education, real estate, credit, personal finance, the
building
topics
your
you
own
got so far.
business, things like that. Just has a financial component to it.
Very good. And we will post a link to the Buffalo Information Sharing Collective Facebook on our Facebook page under this video, which is facebook.com/ppgbuffalo. So Ahmed, the city auction, as you shared, is October 15th to 17th. So would you be able to share, if presuming people are not too late for this year's auction, what some of your tips are for how to get started and how to really be prepared?
Okay. My number one tip is research. So at the auction, you have a lot of people who are phone scrollers, so the auctioneer will start to list a property. They'll be on the phone looking it up on Google Maps, and that's the worst thing you can do. You're going to get burned. You're going to get burned. Please do your research. So the auction list is available now, and it's going to be available all the way up into the auction. I don't have the exact link off the top of my head, but if you Google search in-rem property auctions, City of Buffalo, you'll find a link to it. You'll see all the vacant land that's available, the homes. So if you're looking for one property, make a list of 10. And then once you make your list, please visit the property. So legally, you're not allowed to enter any of the property. It's not yours. If you were to enter it, you would be trespassing. But look at all the things you can see on the outside. Look at the roof condition, siding, windows. Are the windows in good condition? Are they broken? Foundation. Typically, I tell people if the foundation's bad, it's just not worth it. Just avoid the house. and then you want to consider everything you can't see on the inside. So Buffalo is famous for having vacant homes have their copper pipes stolen. So you might buy a house and there's no copper pipes. You shouldn't be surprised by this because it happens in quite a bit of homes. You want to consider, is there mold inside, the floor condition. Just make a list of things that can be wrong with the inside, because there's no way for you to see what's happening inside.
And it totally depends on the property, I know, but yeah, the points you're making I think really help people know it's not just the purchase price at the auction, especially if you're buying a lot with a house or structure on it. It's all of this renovation and upkeep that might go into it too. So do you have a sense of kind of now in Buffalo, what's the range that somebody might end up spending to get a home at the auction and then get it renovated again?
I've heard of people spending a few $1,000s and to fix it up and get it to code. You have 6 months to get the house to code. And I've heard of people spending tens of thousands of dollars.
Right. Okay. So again, that research piece is really important.
The research piece is very important
to know.
Because some of the phone scrollers, I've seen them bidding on houses. Like, I will know which house they're bidding on, and I'm like, oh, that house has a hole in the roof. So if you're buying a house with a hole in the roof and you don't necessarily know because you didn't visit the house, and you'd be able to clearly look and see, oh, there's a hole in the roof, I might not want to do this, you would know that you're easily spending $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 to fix that roof. So there are a lot of individuals who don't do their research, and they could avoid a lot of heartache and pain if they visit the house and saw what was wrong with it, because there's a lot of things you can see from the outside. If every single window is broken, you're gonna have to replace those windows. If there's peeling paint, you're gonna have to paint the house at some point. If the roof's bad, you're gonna have to redo the roof at some point, and those are all costly.
Absolutely. Yeah, so there's great opportunity here, but of course there's a lot of responsibility that comes with winning that bid at the auction too. So I'd love to ask you, I know you yourself have bought some vacant lots in Buffalo, and we have partners and folks who are interested in that piece, either doing it for themselves, hoping to build, or people who would love to be able to buy lots to put in land banks or put in land trusts. So when you buy a vacant lot, what responsibility comes with that? Do you have to be mowing that lawn? Kind of what comes with buying a property that doesn't have a house on it?
Okay, so when you buy a vacant lot, at the auction, lots start off at $500, and then they get bidded up from there. So I bought all my lots at opening bid. And then after you buy the lot, there's no matter what property you buy, there's a filing fee on top of that of $325.
Okay.
So you're going to pay the property price, and then you're going to pay the filing price. So in total, I paid $825 for each lot. After you get the lot, you won't get your deed until mid-December. So I wouldn't really worry about any issues until mid-December.
Okay.
By that time, there might already be snow on the ground, but you have to maintain the property. So like remove trash, keep the grass cut. After your grass is 8 inches, the city will fine you starting at $150, and you will have taxes and fees on the lot.
Okay, so some upkeep.
Yeah.
That definitely goes into that too. So we've gotten some good tips for the auction and talked about really the difference between, again, responsible investing, responsible buying, and folks kind of just coming in either from out of town or from here hoping to flip. So I'd love for you to share with us before we go some of your upcoming workshops and dates that people can know, and then again we'll put a link to your full Facebook page on our page as well.
Okay, so we have a few upcoming workshops. Our next auction workshop is September 19th. That's going to be located at 322 Amherst Street in Buffalo, New York. Following that, we're going to have our Spanish version of the auction workshop. It's going to be done in English, and we're going to have a Spanish translator on hand. That's going to be September 25th. I have yet to get a location for that. I'm looking to do that at the Porter Library. And then our last and final auction workshop will be October 4th. That's going to be at the Meriwether Library. And all of our workshops are from 6 to 8 p.m. And just so people who are coming from work can make those events. And even if you're not in a position to buy a home, I'm still pushing for people, if you can afford it, to buy a vacant lot. There's so many lots that you can still buy at opening bid. There's so many areas of the city that people don't necessarily have interest in, but the way that I feel about it is, if we're not buying the land, a developer could buy the land, and that could help gentrify the neighborhood. So we need to be proactive and buy land that's in our community, just for the simple sake of not having the developers buy that land. And there's just so many things you could do with land. There's recreational space, urban gardening. You could build on it. For a lot of people, what a lot of people don't realize is building could actually be cheaper than renovating a home. It's just the fact that you would need all that money up front. So figuring out financing, or if you have a chunk of money, but building is often a lot of times cheaper.
So lots of great ways to keep land in the community, to keep neighborhood control of those resources that you shared. So thank you so much for joining us today. And again, I'm Andrea O'Sullivan with Partnership for the Public Good, or PPG, which unites over 275 organizations working to build a better Buffalo. Join us again next week, Tuesday, September 11th, for The Public Good, when we'll talk with Catherine Franco and Stephen Halpern from the Western New York Law Center. It's The Public Good, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. on Power 96.5 and Mix 1080.